Welcome to the Sound of Niagara podcasts. I'm back with Tony. We're going to talk about President Trump and his big, beautiful bill, how it's going to affect the people of Western New York. We're going to talk about what's happening in Ukraine and maybe Gaza a little bit, and a few other topics. Tony, are you there?
Yes, sir. I am here and ready to move forward with the president calls the big, beautiful bill. He loves alliteration, and he is a huckster extraordinaire. And really what makes it big and beautiful for him is that if passed in the House version, it is going to be adding $5 trillion over the next 2 years to the national debt. So that's what makes it big. Now, what makes it beautiful? What makes it beautiful is that it is what we call the reverse Robin Hood, where it's going to be stealing from the poor in order to give to additional spending on defense. It's going to be giving additional spending on tax breaks to the wealthy. And it is going to be cutting back on Medicaid. And the most shocking part of it is that, you know, the number one sycophant, there are a lot of them, so it's really a tough contest. Number one sycophant is our Speaker of the House, who has said that this bill, contrary to every other organization with credibility, you know, which has done an analysis, you know, they've all said this is going to be adding to the deficit, and he says, no, it isn't, because he's playing to an audience of one, and anyone who's got half a cerebellum left in their head understands that this thing is going to be adding, again, it's going to continue the deficits, it's going to add to the debt, and I don't know what the point of it is. I really don't.
Are you recovering? You sound a little under the weather.
No, I'm okay. I've had, you know, the jet lag is, I think is worn off as of today, but it does take a few days for that. Honestly, I don't know how secretaries of state or any of these diplomats who jet all over the place, I don't know how they do it.
They have gyms, like the president has like a gym. Well, I'm sure he doesn't use it in Air Force One. Did you know that they have like he has like
No.
Yeah, there's like a Peloton in there and stuff. I that's what I've read. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, you'll never know.
Yeah. Well, I think he just wants to have a palace, like a floating palace from Qatar. Yeah. You know, he's the Speaker of the House, Johnson, says he rules by what's in the Bible. Well, isn't thou shalt not lie in the 10 Commandments? He's lying, right? He's increasing the debt more than all the presidents combined from Washington to Obama increased the debt. And what's he doing it for? Like, let's break it down, right? Let's break it down what's actually in this bill. It's extending the 2017 tax cuts, right?
Right.
Which is a huge giveaway to the richest Americans.
Mm-hmm.
He's eliminating other specific taxes on tips.
Well, taxes, yeah, on tips,
car loan interest,
on Social Security and overtime. That's what he
I hate to break this to you, but who pays taxes on tips for real?
Well, a few years ago, they changed the law so that I guess restaurants at least had to impute what the tips were for someone based on the amount of volume of business they did. So, you know, they did a little bit on that, but obviously if, you know, people are paying leading tips in cash, you know, that's going to be a little bit more difficult to trace.
It's whatever. I mean, I think for the vast majority of tips, there is no record whatsoever. State and local tax deduction is raised, right? The SALT deduction limits. Can you talk about
actually, yes and no.
Tell me.
In this bill, we have people who have small businesses in the country, and they're called subchapter S corporations. And, you know, most businesses that you see are sub S corporations. They have something in New York State and in several other states called the PTET, which allows the state and local taxes that you pay to be deductible as a sub S expense. So basically what that means is you used to be able to take your state and local taxes, your property taxes and your state income taxes, and deduct them as an itemized expense on your tax return. Okay, they've taken that away in the 2017 Tax Act, and it just allowed you to take $10,000 as a deduction. So for these businesses, sub-S businesses, they're letting you take the whole thing as a company deduction, and that has given these business owners some relief. Well, in this latest bill, what they want to do, they have an income threshold, and above that, they want to be able to take this away from them. So they are going to have a de facto tax increase.
Okay.
So they don't like that, really. Excuse me. And furthermore, when we look at other investors in the United States, foreign investors in the United States, they want to put a 20% surtax on their investments here. Now, one of the things that's been supporting our stock market, Nate, is the fact that the dollar has been high and it draws in foreign dollars to be invested in America. A lot of it ends up going into our financial markets. If you're going to tax those, with an additional 20% surtax, that money is going to be leaving here, which is going to be depressing our market and is not going to be good for anyone who's got a 401k plan or an IRA account.
So simply put, though, the SALT tax is a way for people to say, hey, I pay federal taxes. I shouldn't also get dinged so much on my local taxes, right? So it's a way of making things more even for states like California or New York State, right?
That is true. And, the fact of the matter also is that wealthier states, like the coastal states, do not receive a dollar for dollar reimbursement from the federal government in terms of programs. Much of our money goes to the federal income tax that we pay goes to red states that are poorer states.
Right.
And one of the offsets we had for that benefits was that we were able to deduct some of that on our tax returns. So really what the Republicans are saying is that, well, this is unfair that we're subsidizing high cost states. Well, but the high cost states don't come back and say, well, it's sort of unfair that we're sending a disproportionate amount of our tax dollars to other states that are not doing that.
But the key point I want to make to everybody is that they're making the 2017 tax cuts for the rich that every single analysis says goes mostly to the rich. They're extending the idea of trickle-down economics indefinitely, which already added significantly to our national debt, and again applies to our national debt. And they're not offsetting it by decreasing defense spending. They're increasing defense spending because Trump wants to build a Golden Dome missile shield. The Golden Dome, which is not referring to his head. It's referring to a missile shield. Sounds a lot like Star Wars, right? It sounds like the Star Wars plan that Reagan wanted that didn't work, that almost bankrupted us in the 80s. The plans for that.
Nate, with this, there are technologies that they don't even have yet.
Right. They want to create Here's the thing is, create that dome. All right? You gold dome. We had gold dome in Buffalo. It failed. Anyway, you create your golden dome, Trump, and guess what's going to happen? You ever hear of fallout? If there's a nuclear war, I hate to tell all these idiots, we're all dead. If you read anything about how a nuclear war actually works, we'll be cast into a nuclear winter. We won't have any crops. We will all die. If I think this is the number one issue that gets ignored by people, is how fragile human existence is because of the existence of nuclear weapons. Nobody survives a nuclear war. I don't care what bunker you have. I don't care where you live. I don't care what kind of golden dome you have. So I guess you can make the argument that he's going to protect against a stray missile coming in. Maybe. But what about drones? You just saw what happened in Ukraine. We'll talk about that in a second. He also wants to increase border security. We can see what's happening all over the country. He's apparently still deporting less than Biden did.
I agree with you. And, Nate, people, if listeners are not necessarily financial people, maybe we can use a sort of a health analogy to give a sense of what this is like. First, what is the fastest growing component of the federal budget? Now, most people would think, well, it's entitlement programs, right? Social Security and Medicare, because of the fact that 12,000 people a day are retiring. So that would make sense, right? But that would be wrong. The fastest growing component of our federal budget is interest expense that we are paying on our debt. And this is going to be the first year where we are going to be spending more on debt service, paying interest for stuff we borrowed, than we are spending on defense, which is really a bad sign. So if we take sort of a medical analogy, Let's say that you're 25 years old and you're smoking 2 packs a day. Well, your doctor is going to tell you you really shouldn't be doing that, but you're 25 years old. Let's zip ahead now. You're 65 years old and you're smoking 2 packs a day. What your doctor is going to tell you is not only that it's not good for you, is that this will likely kill you. And that's sort of where we are with the $37 or $39 trillion of national debt we've got. And the fact that this bill is going to add $5 trillion to that debt over the next 2 years, and it's going to go ad infinitum. At some point, that smoker is going to get a heart attack. It's just, we know that. And at some point, we know that our system is going to blow up because people who hold the bonds say, I no longer trust in your promise that you are going to be paying me back. And the real interesting tell on this is that the Treasury Secretary Bessent this weekend on the shows did come out and had to tell people there's zero chance that the United States will welch on its debts as the debt ceiling conversation approaches very shortly. So people should be scared about this. This is irresponsible behavior. I don't know what these people are thinking. They know it's wrong, but they persist on doing that. And I would just think there's going to be hell to pay when the public finally understands the incompetence that these legislators are just trying to sell us. It's just awful.
Yes. And for those who don't understand, I want to say again, they're extending the 2017 tax cuts, which again, they were not tax cuts on taxes for you or me. They're tax cuts on the wealthiest Americans and things the only taxes they normally pay. They just got rid of those taxes. I'm trying to make it as simply as possible so people understand, because people try to say, well, they hear the word, he gave tax cuts. It isn't tax cuts for you. It's tax cuts on things that affect the most wealthy Americans. It's allowing them to further avoid paying taxes. And so because of that, because every time this is framed by anybody, even people on the left, it's framed as, oh, we have all these entitlements and therefore we're going broke. But maybe we need some entitlement reform. I don't think so. I think we need to expand some of these entitlements, honestly. But you have a country with very huge amounts of wealth held by a smaller and smaller percentage of the population, and they're getting more and more breaks to hold that wealth forever. And that's it. I'm going to be honest with you, we are no different than Russia at this point. In fact, the theft
How so?
The theft by the Trump administration, in this regard, the theft by the Trump administration is less than the post-Soviet Union theft of oligarchs in Russia. They are doing more theft, higher amounts of just blatant robbery, this crypto scams, the deals with foreign powers for his family.
Right.
We're doing it. Go ahead.
They're doing it differently, though. After the fall of the Soviet Union, what Putin said is that we've got these state enterprises, and I will award them to, the oligarchs with the proviso that he is in charge of everything. Now, what's happened with the Trump administration is, what they've done is something like in Vietnam, where they wanted to put up this big commercial development. And usually it takes years to go through their regulatory, system to be able to approve something like this. And the Trump family basically is in cahoots with the president and saying, look, if you don't play ball with us and give us what we want now, we're going to slap tariffs as a government on you. And it's extortion by any other way of looking at it. The same thing with crypto is I can control the regulatory structure for crypto. So the biggest contributors, Nate, to the 2024 election were crypto companies, because they're buying regulatory influence. When you look at Elon Musk, they're building this, mega server farm I believe it's in Qatar. And he was threatening Sam Altman that I'm in bed with Trump. And unless you take me along and let me be part of this, there's going to be hell to pay because I'm going to make trouble for you. It didn't end up playing out that way, but that's the way all these people are. One other thing is, I was in the French Riviera, over the past couple of weeks. And, one of the days, the prior Sunday, they had the F1 races in Monaco. And, so I'm up on one of these hills and I was able to hear the cars, but I wasn't able to see them. But they had about 120 yachts that were parked offshore. One of those yachts was Jeff Bezos's, who's the CEO of, or I should say the chairman of Amazon. And wouldn't you know that the yacht, which is a $500 million yacht, is flagged under the Cayman Islands rather than the United States. Yeah. Now, why is that? And most of the others were flagged under the Cayman Islands because they don't have to pay any taxes.
Right. These people they're fake American, pro-American people. It's like the Russian oligarchs buying moving all their assets to other countries as well. And how did the Russian oligarchs become rich? They became rich by cozying up to Putin, praising him, praising Russian nationalism, and therefore getting contracts. Elon Musk was literally in the White House. This was not like the Gracie Commission or the Grace Commission under the Reagan administration. He was literally attacking with a chainsaw the very agencies that regulate him. He was.
I got it. But look, I would just say, to him, with what you and your 19-year-olds know about government, how about if we just send our 19-year-olds into Tesla and started messing with your code?
But he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Right? He got everything he wanted. I don't think people realize this. He didn't want to fix the American government. Of
course not. That didn't make sense.
He wanted to get federal regulation off him. He wanted his dream for 30 years almost is to create a financial system separate from the regulations of governments. And now he's got rid of the consumer protection agencies that oversaw the fact that he wants to use X and other social media platforms to process payments in a way that is unstable, unsafe, unfair in many circumstances. He is trying to be beyond the reach of government, and he got that. He got that from 3 months and $300 million in campaign donations.
So Nathan, let me just, why
ahead.
Is it, because I don't understand this, maybe you can help me with this. Why is it the Democrats appear to be incapable of making the following points? Okay. Number one, what the wealthy want, what these American oligarchs want, is to pay as little or no tax, if at all possible. Point one. Point two, what they want to do is have all regulation removed from them so that they can do whatever they want to continue to build their wealth. And, the third point is there is no synergy between what these people are going to government in order to achieve and anything that is going to make your life any better. As a matter of fact, the actions that they're taking are in all likelihood going to make your life less better. Why would you vote for that? Why would you?
I don't know. I'll tell you why. It's the same reason on the local level. I knew progressive activists, literally activists, way more progressive than me, go to Albany, a dump, let's be honest, a kind of a dump of a place, a horrible place. They go there, they go to a couple, not the whole Albany region, but that government, like whatever it is, that government compound downtown.
Rockefeller put it in.
It is
called the Empire Plaza.
It's cool looking, but it's scary. It's disturbing. They go there, they go to a couple cocktail parties, they feel important. They suddenly meet rich people for the first time in their life, or somewhat rich people, and they start doing their bidding. And I said earlier that we're a lot like Russia in the fact that we're oligarchy. Who do you think writes all these bills in our country? They're written by the wealthy and powerful lobbyists, and then our Congress people put their names on it. And all these values, like Mike Johnson says, he's governs by the Bible. Sure, he does. He lies every day. What is that woman? Did you see that woman that was in the graveyard? Did you see that? What's her name?
Well, I do know that there's a famous saying, and it's that religion is the last, the last vestige of scoundrels.
Yeah, well, it's true.
Right?
In many cases, it's true.
Yeah.
That senator, what's her name? Did you see that she did that? She did the town hall.
Oh, yeah. That was, she was the former military.
Iowa Republican.
Yeah, I think is she from Kansas, Republican from
She's from
Kansas?
Iowa.
Jody
Ernst.
Ernst. That's it.
So she did this town hall where they said people are going to die because they're cutting Medicaid and Medicare. What did she say in response? Well, we all going to die. Like this
Yeah.
completely nonchalant, like completely glib attitude. And yeah, you know what? And then she does a video because everything. None of these people are leaders or independent. They all do
Yeah.
what Trump does. None of them have an independent bone in their body. They follow the trends. So she does this video where she's like, in a graveyard saying, yeah, I'm so sorry. I said
Yeah.
we're all going to die. She thinks it was weird. It was a weird video. It looked
But
weird.
it was Nate. It was weird, and she caved on Hegseth because he
Oh,
really
yeah.
shouldn't have become the Secretary of Defense, and she didn't want to get primaried. And I always looked at John McCain, and I didn't think the guy was that odd or that unusual. I thought he always voted his conscience on stuff and called a spade a spade. Apparently, he's a real outlier because these people all put their jobs ahead of the job they're supposed to be doing for the American public.
I don't know how to tell people this. Let me say this to you. I met these politicians. They're not normal. They don't have their own internal thoughts. Everything is a calculated. This sounds like it's a cliche, but everything is a calculated sentence to gain more power, personal power and authority. Not to use it for something they care about, just to self-preserve their position as a politician. They are the weirdest, they're almost inhuman. It's almost like they're like, you ever see the Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
they're not there. Their eyes are not there. They're glassed over. They're not really talking. And the moments you see who they really are, the rare moments behind the scenes, they're vicious. They're almost like, primordial. They're like aggressive. They're a weird group of people. I don't trust any of them. I feel like we're in like some dystopian novel at this point. And every week I'm like, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. I don't hope this stuff happens. I hope I'm wrong about all of it. But we are definitely in a post-democratic period right now. I'm disturbed by what happened in Poland last week, which is the victory by a ultra-nationalist MAGA clone. It's the first time we've had someone like... I was recently with a group of Polish people, and I was stunned by how right-wing they were. Stunned. Yeah. How much they loved Trump. How absolutely obsessed they were with Trump. And I'm like...
the church is really right-wing also.
Right. And I told them, aren't you guys disturbed by the war in Ukraine? They're like, yeah, we're going to win that anyway. Trump's just talking. So let's pivot here. So we both agree that this is horrible for our country. We have the big, beautiful bill. What you said was perfect. Go through those points again because I thought it was so good. Can you say them again? Like, why isn't the Democratic Party asking these questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, why is the Democratic Party not making the following case? It's that the American oligarchs, the truly wealthy, are looking to buy influence in the code where they pay not only less tax, but if at all possible, no tax.
There's one guy saying it, and his name is Bernie Sanders. He's been vilified for years, and he's not the greatest spokesman for this because he's old and goofy, and we need someone who's a little bit more media savvy to do this stuff. And I agree. I love Bernie, but we got to find somebody else.
I agree. Second point is they want no regulation.
Right. They want no one
because they want to be able to do whatever they want. And typically, their actions, in order for them to be doing really, really well, the American public, consumers, they get stiffed. Right. We have the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Right.
And they were put in place after the global financial crisis of 2008, 2009, because so many people were losing homes due to mortgage documents and just underhanded activities by the banks.
Right.
And one of the first things that the administration has done is to gut that agency. Remember, they weren't able to charge excessive fees on credit cards, et cetera, et cetera.
It's all to help Elon Musk turn X into some sort of giant payment processing system. That's his dream. Remember this is the PayPal guy.
And the whole idea, Nate, is that this is human nature, and I don't blame these guys for wanting to be that way because that's who they are and that's maybe who we are. But the reason we have government in place is to act as a buffer as a referee to not allow them to go hog wild with
It's
their
so
desires.
true. I remember when I was in law school, and I mean, I'm not even sure this is the right position or not, but it stuck with me. My professor asked me, "Hey, if someone," I said to him, he's like, "If someone kills your family," I said, "I want the right to kill them." I was like, I would kill them, right? If someone hurts somebody I love. And he's like, "That's why we have law, because of course you feel that way. But if that's the way we live in a vigilante society, and we descend into chaos." So you're right. Yeah, maybe this is a natural instinct for them to want to accumulate as much as possible, and that's just we're just inherently greedy creatures. But that's why we form governments, so that people can't exploit other people. That we're not just in a situation where it's always survival of the fittest, or the most cunning, or the most brutal.
But Nate, this is where the Supreme Court has really gone off the rails, and they've done this historically over hundreds of years with different decisions. But just allowing someone like Elon Musk, an individual who's got significant business with the government, to be able to contribute $275 million to a campaign, and to bring all of his organizational acolytes to run a campaign. Basically, they get a straw man candidate like Trump. They end up essentially buying the election, forgetting about the Democrats' incompetence on things, but they end up doing that, and then they end up taking over swaths of the government. I mean, it's the real sin of all this really is big money in government, and until that is addressed, and maybe we need to have some calamity happen, before people get smart, before Congress gets smart and says, this is going to destroy us unless we put some better guardrails on it, because it's the big money has just overcome everything. But you want to pivot to the next point, which
I want to say something that you triggered something I want to say about Viktor Frankl. Mm-hmm. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. I read it. It was a long time ago, but he talks about the fact that we need to have meaning for life to have purpose. And he talks, that's the essential takeaway. He talks about life in the concentration camp, and how some clung to love or memory to get through it. Some clung to, the desire of unfinished responsibilities they wanted to return to, and some just succumbed. But he also talks about the fact that some people they survived by being incredibly cruel. It wasn't always the best who survived. It was sometimes the worst. And I think with some of these oligarchs who are we assume because they're the most successful, they're the best. Maybe they're just the evilest and the most cunning. And I don't want to think that way all the time, because I do believe in greatness. I believe some people are truly great. I believe there were things about even Elon that were great once upon a time. I certainly believe that Steve Jobs had a glimmer of greatness in him, for sure. But like, some of these guys are just cutthroat. I mean, does anybody really think that Mark Zuckerberg is special in any way? So
nope.
Exactly. He's a little, I saw him once, and when I was in South Korea, and he came to visit the company I was working for, and he was one of the least impressive people I've ever seen in my life. And I'm not exaggerating here. Like, I would never have noticed him in a million years at all. And like, of course, we're more than just superficial creatures. There's stuff behind the scenes. Maybe he's some brilliant guy, but when he spoke, he did not give the impression of being brilliant. He gave the impression of being incredibly dumb. So like, I don't know. I think he was just in the right place at the right time. All right, let's talk about Ukraine. We both want Ukraine to be successful, right?
That is true. We want any democratic country, which has the rule of law and democratic elections, unlike Russia, to be able to succeed. And that's really what America's been about for the 249 years that we've been in existence. And, I recall President Kennedy in his 1960 inauguration address saying, "We will pay any price, bear any burden, for the cause of freedom throughout the world." And boy, how different we are, whatever it is, 65 years later or 75 years later, than, or I guess 65 then, what he was saying back then. It's like the United States is not going to support Ukraine at all. The question is whether the United States will allow Ukraine or Europeans to purchase weapons manufactured in the United States to use against Russia, which is really quite something. we're spending what I can tell you is that Ukraine, they're brilliant and they're revolutionizing
Absolutely.
warfare today, and they're doing it largely, with their own resources, not necessarily with the United States
Well,
resources.
what Trump did by removing himself from supporting them, they're free to do what they want now. And they did this Operation Spiderweb where they sent drones deep 3,000 miles away into Russia, almost all the way in Siberia to attack these bombers. If you're really worried about World War III, disengaging Trump seems to be leading us to World War III. Let's never forget the fact that he said he would solve it in a day. It's worse than it was. Remember, Biden was constantly telling Ukraine, you can't go into Russia. You can't go into Russia.
Right.
Here we are blowing up nuclear bombers 3,000
4 years
miles
later,
away.
right?
I mean, honestly, if we don't get involved, we might all be dead. I hate to say it that way. I want Ukraine to be successful. There's some things. Listen, I read a lot of history, and you got to remember, this guy thinks he's Peter the Great. Peter the Great fought a war. This is a well-known fact in the rest of the world, as well, especially in Europe. A 20-year war with Sweden. 20 years. And they're, according to internal discussions, they're saying this is going to be a 20-year war with Ukraine. They're ready. That's what he wants. He's like, we're never giving up. So I don't know what the answer is. The answer certainly isn't to pretend it's not happening. And, in Poland and Latvia, if you go to these places right now, you can see these are, okay, I read a great book last year called Borderlands. It was incredible. And it talked about, we think about our borders in Europe as being set forever. They have changed so dramatically over the last 150 years, even the last 75 years. There's places that are in Russia today that were German speaking not that long ago. So like these places have changed hands many times. And those Baltic Sea states, which are, very much, they have a great affinity for their a cultural affinity for other countries in Europe. They are so anti-Russian right now. They are terrified. So I think people in America should realize this is an incredibly dangerous situation and it's getting worse. I want them to win. I want Ukraine to win, but I wish we had a president that was actually involved and not just trying to outsource this or pretend it's not happening or burying his head in the sand. We complained for years about Afghanistan here and we ran away from Afghanistan embarrassed. What is he doing in Ukraine? He's completely abandoning his responsibility here.
Well, Nate,
go ahead.
One of his big weaknesses is his tremendous pride.
Right.
And one of the best weapons to use against pride is comedy. And so this writer Anderson from the Financial Times came up with the term taco, which is an acronym for Trump always chickens out, taco, right. TACO. And one of the reporters asked the president about this. And he said, it's a nasty, nasty question.
I saw that. It obviously bothered him.
He said, never ask me that nasty question again. And, he can say whatever he wants about puffing out his chest, but the bottom line is it's out in the ether right now that Trump always chickens out. He's doing that with his, his bark is worse than his bite. He's doing that with the tariffs time and time and time again. He's doing that with Ukraine.
But I think is on that one, on the tariffs, I hope he chickens out. Don't.
I got it.
Chicken out, please. We'd love you to chicken out. That's what I feel about it. But
I got it. But and he's also got this tremendous overconfidence and this. He talks about you don't have the cards, but boy, the cards he's got, he's really overplaying his hand.
Did you see
as an example?
Did you see what? Go ahead, hit it.
Yeah. As an example, he says that. I don't know. Let's look at China. I can put 145% tariffs on them. We don't need them, right? We don't need them. Well, actually, the rare earth materials, we very seriously need them because they're in magnets, which is everything. If you've got, power windows, if you've got power seats in your car, if you have power door handles, whatever it is, those all have magnets because they're all run by little motors. And you look at this, 20 years ago, we used to have a plant in Indiana that was processing rare earth materials. We got rid of it, decided to be penny wise and pound foolish, outsource it. China's got it, and they got us by the neck because it's basically, you don't play ball with me. You're going to have separate licenses for this, and we can drag our feet on it. So to say that, we don't need you, they need us, not necessarily the case. Ukraine, you have no cards to play. I think after, yesterday's bombing, I think Ukraine has more cards than they realized.
Did you see that they put out a meme yesterday of it says King of Drones, and it was a playing card they put out on the internet last night.
Yeah, it's like a play on Game of Thrones.
Right, like they do have cards to play. Go ahead. Finish your point. I want to make one.
No, so what other things has he overplayed?
He doesn't understand it.
He's overplayed the fact that the Republican House and Senate must be subsumed to his will, or else at some point,
maybe,
I think that if these policies play out, they're going to lose big in the 2026 elections.
If there's elections.
There are going to be elections in 2026.
Do you know, I want to say this. I keep saying this to everybody. Do you know who the biggest proponents for election security were before 2020? It was all Democrats. Because I can go show you. I can send you links because no one talks about it anymore. They wrote consistently about the insecure nature of our elections. Consistently. There was NGOs that were formed. The problem is Trump has delegitimized all of that. So now we have this assumption that our elections are safe and secure. I don't think they are. I really don't. And you think that with Elon Musk and the guys like this, we're going to have safe and secure elections? I don't. Here's another thing is it's because we're not able to think beyond what we're used to. We're like the conventional, there's something about human nature that it doesn't allow us to think objectively. If there's stolen elections all over the world, like in Russia, why wouldn't we have them here? Like we've proven again and again here that the stuff that happens there would happen here, but you're assuming that our elections are going to be safe? I'm sorry to put that out there, but the reason why we have to have this discussion is because me even saying this makes you uncomfortable. That tells you and everybody else there's something to be talked about here. And I really worry about what the elections are going to look like in a couple of years.
All right. Well,
go ahead.
We will see. We will see. Actually, that would be in a year and a half.
Well, a year and a half. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes with this idiot. Let me say something about the Ukraine war before we move on from this. So the guy that is the fascist leader and the fascist philosopher of Russia is a guy named Alexander Dugin, and it's the guy that they killed his daughter. The Ukrainians killed his daughter about a year ago or so. So Dugin is this guy, and his central philosophy is that Russia is a unique religious state, and the Russian identity is eternal. It's not like the West. It has it's
right.
Yeah. So he believes, and part of his belief system is that that if a country cannot defend itself, it doesn't have a right to exist. Therefore, Canada doesn't have a right to exist because America can eat it up anytime it wants. And Ukraine doesn't have a right to exist because without U.S. help, it cannot defend itself. Well, now what, dude? Because we're not making those drones. So, like, this has to be a serious slap in the face to Russia. I'm afraid what Russia's going to do is what they did in Chechnya. When the Chechens started taking on the Russians at home, they basically did to Chechnya what the Israelis are doing to Gaza. They destroyed Chechnya. They completely carpet bombed it and destroyed it. Let's be honest. Russia has the capability of doing that to Ukraine. I know they've done horrible things there, but they haven't used nuclear weapons. They haven't done the type of carpet bombing they could do that they did in Chechnya. Go ahead.
What I'd like to do is just to bring it down to a more pragmatic level.
What's that?
For our listeners. Well, let's talk about divorce for a minute. Okay.
All right. My favorite subject. Go ahead.
All right. Let's say that you're married, right? And then you decide to get divorced. Okay. And then 34 years later, you come back and say, I want you. And I'm going to take you almost like by hostage to get back with me. I mean, people say, well, my God, that's patently absurd. First of all, I've never heard of that happening. And second, that's sort of illegal. Well, that's essentially what's happened with Ukraine, because in 1991, they claimed their independence from Russia as the Soviet Union fell. And now, 34 years later, Russia's saying, no, 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 the divorce is over. We're going to just take you back, and we're going to do it by force. Putting into practical terms like that, I mean, they've had like 35 years to say, we're good, and we like the life we have. We do not want to be taken over. We don't want to be part of your thing. And it's like, too bad. That's what we're going to do because we can, which is really interesting. Now, I think one of the things that's going to play against them against Russia is the price of oil. And, OPEC has mentioned that on 3 separate occasions now, they're going to be adding supply to the market, which is going to be depressing the price of oil. And Trump wants to have price of oil, not to hurt Russia, but because he wants to say that he's doing something about inflation and he wants to keep energy prices low, which is contrary also to, the drill, because the frackers in the United States really have a tough time making money unless the price of oil, barrel of oil, is $65 or more. So, if the price of energy continues to decline, and if we end up getting a soft economy, it is naturally going to decline because there's going to be less use for it. And by the way, the Senate has a bipartisan bill with 82 senators on it, which say that we're going to have reciprocal tariffs against any country, India, China, whatever, who uses any Russian energy. And that is just like a gift to Trump if he would just take it. I don't know if he's going to, but that's their vulnerability, and they're not going to be able to control it, I think.
I don't know. There's so many. Listen, I really don't know if he has a guiding philosophy on anything besides making sure that he's safe and making sure that he has power. Before you go though, I want to talk about China. You talked about China and then the growing influence and all these things. I saw 2 things that were interesting. I saw this report about the North Koreans and how the North Koreans and the Russians increasingly are controlling information to control their people. And one of the things they're doing is like they have cell phones there that are not connected to the internet or are connected to local internets or something. I'm not even sure. But the cell phones they have take a screenshot every 20 seconds so they can see what you're communicating about, what texts you're sending. And they can be monitored at any time by AI to see if you're talking about things you shouldn't be talking about. That's the extent the North Koreans are going to monitor their own people. If you use words on your cell phone that are not endorsed words, for example, if you say the word Namhan, which is South Korea, it automatically changes it to puppet state because they call the South Koreans a puppet state. Russia is now employing similar means to control their population. I often think about the fact that in America, for years, we vilified liberal arts. So what are you going to do with your liberal arts degree? It's like, the whole thing in America was, liberal arts is trash because you can't make money. Because everything in our country is about how much money you can make. Because at that moment in the development of American capitalism, getting an English degree wasn't good for to make a lot of money. But I'll tell you what liberal arts do for you. They make you an independent thinker. They make you a critical thinker. And they strengthen democracy. And if we want to have a strong democracy, we need an educated people. We need better media. Trump's control of the media increasingly is terrifying. We need, and the vilification of liberal arts, the vilification, the celebration of the hard sciences is the only acceptable form of education is I think was a huge mistake for our country. We have a huge mass of people who are not well read. They don't care about books. They don't care about education. They don't care about the philosophy behind. As Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living, and we don't have a functioning democracy because of it. And here, last point. This is the other thing I'm afraid of. Because we have such an uneducated populace, and that's what we do have is an uneducated populace. I'm not only worried about democracy. I'm worried about our social output. I was talking to a Chinese friend of mine the other day, and he's like, when I grew up, I listened to all Western music. I listened to American music. I don't listen to American music. It's boring. I don't watch American movies. He's like, he went to go see Mission Impossible, which I liked. He's like, I don't want to sit there for 4 hours watching that. I saw that same movie 30 years ago. And I'm like, good point. And if you look, I was sitting with my kids watching the Netflix awards or whatever it is, the announcement of new Netflix show. And I thought about my day that day. Now, I'm a little bit specific, I guess, but because I'm with kids who grew up partially in Asia. But like their friends didn't. And we're all together watching TV. It seems that 30% of the new shows on Netflix are from Korea. And then it's crazy. And then we went for a walk, and then they all wanted to. I'm like, let's get some ice cream. They didn't want to get ice cream. They wanted to get bubble tea. And these are not small things. If you look at the influence of Asian culture, Chinese society, Chinese pop culture, Korean pop culture, Japanese pop culture on America, and you think these are all signs of a nation in decline. We are a nation in decline. And part of the reason why we're in decline is we do not have a well-educated populace, and we do not have a populace that is self-reflective. We have an indulgent populace, and we have a populace that's based mostly on greed. And I think these are real concerns to defeat not Trumpism long term, but also for the health and well-being of our country. Now, sorry to go off that long screed, but I wanted to get that out there because I've been thinking about it all week. Moving on, let's go into Gaza real quick. Go ahead.
Just being one point here, being a financial guy.
Yeah.
One of the reasons people are looking at college educations as a training ground to be able to make a decent income is that the cost of college has gone through the roof. And the debt level that people would have to carry is crushing for a lot of people. And, many of them might like to do liberal arts, but they can't afford to do that because the people who graduate with liberal arts degrees and go into traditional liberal arts types of occupations tend to not make very much money. They can't service the debt. So I do think there's a correlation between the number of people who went into liberal arts when the costs of college were dramatically lower than they are today. And, on the one hand, I can't blame someone as an advisor to say that it's irresponsible to run up, I don't know, $100,000, $150,000 in debt.
Absolutely.
Knowing that you're only going to make $50,000 a year.
Absolutely. But maybe we should have worked on finding ways to make it more affordable, first and foremost. It's crazy how much people pay for college. And secondly, maybe we should pay more for these things that make our life actually better. And maybe having a society where the arts and the arts are so undervalued, where teachers are so undervalued. I think every society is based on every budget is based on values. This week I'm going to spend X amount of dollars on shoes because I need new shoes. I prioritize having nice shoes. Well, maybe because of that, you can't pay your gas bill. There's everything's based on values. So yeah, there is absolute needs, but I do believe as a society, we started to move away from valuing things that made our lives better and more meaningful and more connected. Wait, before you go on this subject, I'm a big reader of I love sci-fi and stuff like that. And I read almost all of the Stephen King books I get my hands on over the years. And one of my favorites is The Stand. And The Stand, the society there, it breaks down. The devil takes half the people, the God takes the other half of the people. And they set up these two civilizations after this great plague hits the world, like a super COVID hits the world. And those that are immune, God essentially, I'm simplifying, but God essentially recruits half the people and Satan recruits the other half. God's headquarters is Las Vegas. And all the people that go there are the scientists and the engineers. The people that go to the Colorado are kind of like the artsy, crunchy. Yeah. God recruits them, and their society is a little uglier, a little more messy, but a lot more happy. The society in Vegas, everything's on time, everything works well, but they're constantly being surveilled. They don't have any personal freedom, and their indulgences are extreme. And I think King was trying to make a point there. That, maybe if we value these other things, our society will be a little messy, but maybe we'll be a little more happy. I mean, this is, to me, the only thing that should matter for any country is gross domestic happiness. How much happy, I don't care how much money we're making. How happy are we as a society? You think all those people living in those horrible McMansions in Dallas, in those gated communities, are happy? I don't.
I think some of them are.
I don't, man. I really don't. I don't. If I look at who's happy in the world, it is not those folks. But listen, they're angry.
No, my mom used to have a saying. She was sort of a Sicilian comic, and And she said, people say money can't buy happiness. They're just not shopping in the right stores.
Well, listen, you got to have money to be happy. If you got no money, you're going to be broke and sad. I'm not saying we should have no money, but how much money is enough? What is the number? Elon isn't happy.
No, he is, unfortunately, he seems to be a sort of a disturbed kind of guy who's...
you named me one super rich guy that is happy. I guess you could say Warren Buffett.
Yeah, I need to know more super rich guys, and I don't know any, quite honestly.
You know more rich guys than I know. I saw they opened a place called the Cheektowaga Country Club the other day. It's a bar that is like, it has like pool and darts and stuff, but the name of it is the Cheektowaga Country Club, and I really like that.
I didn't even know they had one.
It isn't a country club. It's a bar, but the name of it is the Cheektowaga.
Oh, I see. That's what they call it.
It's kind of cute. Yeah. It looks like a good place, by the way. All right, let's talk about Gaza. I want Sorry, I made you wait to start this thing because I've been so busy, but I want to talk about Gaza because we haven't talked about it enough. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there was a terrorist attack yesterday in Colorado, which is horrible, and those 2 poor kids were shot in D.C. You're going to continue to see those type of weird people come out of the woodwork and kill, but it doesn't take away from the fact that what's happening in Gaza is one of the worst war crimes ever. And I'm not just the only one saying that. The former prime minister of Israel, yeah, openly saying that. I don't know what to say. What's the point? Like, first of all, there's 2 things. I don't really understand. I can see the videos of Gaza. There's nowhere to hide. How are they still hiding hostages? I don't get it. Like, where are they hiding them?
I think what you don't get it. What you have to get is if this war ends, Bibi Netanyahu, may end up going to jail.
You're right.
And as long as he keeps this going, that is not necessarily going to be the case. But unfortunately, what he's doing is, again, the former prime minister of Israel, which is not a low-level functionary, indicated that they're creating war crimes in terms of what they're doing. And you can't walk away from that. And, Jewish people have suffered more than most. And they should be sensitive to that. And we all understand what they ended up having to go through in order to get to where we are now. But at what point does this morph from defending yourself? And you're never going to root out all of Hamas. You're just not, unless you kill everyone there. As a practical matter.
Listen to what the leadership is saying. They're openly saying we have to get rid of all of them, exterminate them, get them all out.
Well, what happens if you end up having to exterminate all the Palestinians in order to do that?
I think they want to. I really think they want to. The Palestinians are disregarded by many people, including other Muslim groups, other nations. Nobody wants these people, and I think that the leadership, the Netanyahu administration, is basically come to the position of genocide. And they want to destroy these people.
Yeah, well, I would certainly hope that would not be the case, and hopefully at some point, one of the surrounding countries is going to be able to, make a deal, which is actually going to move the needle on things. I mean, what I will say is these activities have freed Syria from, the terrorist president they had there, Bashar Assad. It also has, I think, had an impact on Lebanon, which no longer is controlled as they were, previously. So I do think, some of the positions on the chessboard of the Middle East, have changed significantly because of this. But I think Israel needs to look at taking an inventory of the fact that there are still hostages there. If the hostages were released today, I think President Netanyahu would have a very difficult time staying in office and maybe staying out of jail. So I think the sooner there's some sort of hostage resolution, the sooner at that point the Israeli people are going to ask for a reckoning on what's happened. And I think there are going to be a lot of heads that roll.
I'm going to read a couple comments here by the Israeli officials about the Palestinians. Netanyahu said in 2023, You must remember what Amalek has done to you. This is Amalek in the Old Testament is the people that are the equivalent of evil, and they had an unprovoked attack against the Israelis, and they were told to be blotted out. And many people have interpreted this to be, a call for genocide. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said, "There will be no electricity, no food, no food. We are fighting human animals." Another Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, I'm going to get these names wrong, but you get the point. Gaza would be entirely destroyed, and advocated for the displacement of the Palestinian population to third countries. He also says that starving the population is just and moral. Heritage Minister I can't say these names. No nuclear bomb on Gaza, and he suggested the use of a nuclear bomb on Gaza, and said there would be no uninvolved civilians. They imply that everyone's a part of the problem. A couple more. There's so many. The president, Isaac Herzog, said that the entire Palestinian nation bore responsibility for Hamas's actions, implying collective guilt. Deputy Knesset Speaker said the goal was erasing the Gaza Strip and the Gaza from the face of the earth. I mean, they're openly saying this is their goal, to destroy these people, these babies, these little kids out there. And it's really easy to think of them as all listen, after October 7th, I was vilified by people online because I was saying, hey, we that's crazy. They and I stand by it. They raped those people. They killed those people. They killed those kids at that concert. That's crazy. It's insane. It was horrible. And I have a natural inclination to actually decide with Israel on most issues. But what's happening now, you have to readjust, and this is one of the worst things we've ever seen in the history of my life, in my entire life. I don't know if you're really watching these videos of what's happening in Gaza. It is painful to watch. Did I lose you? Are you off?
Well, no. It's a tragedy of epic proportions. It's shocking that it's happening in a developed country in 2025. It's to an extent a political failure. I mean, why was this even allowed to happen? From a country that is so defense oriented as Israel is. I mean, these people know how to lock it down in terms of security. How is it that happened? How is it this happened for 8 hours and people were not being able to be defended by the country? I mean, I think there's a lot of blame to go around all over the case. You see their intelligence, the Mossad, world beaters in terms of that regard. How was this missed? It's just sort of a shocking thing, how that happened and then what the reaction has been like. But I don't think there are going to be any winners coming out of this, and it's just a tragedy for the innocents that are being.
So if you look at the world right now, the rise of China, the ongoing war in Ukraine, what's happening in Gaza, the fact that we have a president, didn't he say yesterday that Biden was a clone and was killed in 2020? What was that about?
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. Actually, he was killed in 2020, probably in part of the election that Trump lost. And
did he say that, or did he tweet that out? What happened? Did he tweet it out, or I don't even?
Yeah, I mean, he's sort of like he thinks he's cute. But anytime anyone else does something cute to him, he doesn't like that because he's very sensitive. But it's ridiculous. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people who follow him and think it's the gospel truth if he says something, and they're honest to God going to believe it. And it's irresponsible for someone in the position he's got to be able to endorse or put out some stuff and say, oh, it's just a joke. And quite honestly, I'm getting a little bit tired of every irresponsible and dumb thing the guy does. People say, oh, he's just kidding. Well, you know what? Nobody knows what the truth is because there is no truth. And anything that's bad, he's kidding. It's just
he feeds these conspiracy theories. It is fun to watch those two guys, those two idiots, those two bumbling buffoons running the FBI, Huey and Dewey or whatever. The
Cash Patel.
Yeah, the clowns. And to watch them stumble, and because they realize there is no secret deep state. They can't point to the secrets. They can't show you the Epstein files the way they said they would. They can't tell you that Epstein was murdered. It's so funny because Trump and his gang run on lies and conspiracies. But this is the thing I say to these right-wingers all the time. You guys run it all. You're the president. You control the Senate. You control the Congress. You control the Supreme Court. You got it all. Nobody in the history of our country has more power ever than Donald Trump has. If there are secrets or deep states or problems, stop blaming Democrats. Joe Biden is gone. Why are you guys acting like that's that's a justifiable scapegoat?
Gee, Nate, I don't hear any Democrats saying that.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't see them saying, "Why don't you quit the
horrible.
blame? Why don't you quit the blame game? We gave you the keys to the car. You're driving it. We don't want to know what happened in the past. What are you doing for us today and going forward?"
They're afraid. They're afraid to go to jail. They're afraid to stand out. They're just weaklings. They are complicit. We need a new party. I'm looking for a text. You sent me a really great quote this week, and I was really blown away by it. I'm gonna try to find it. You know which one? Oh, here it is. It's from John Kenneth Galbraith in 1963, called "One of man's oldest, best financed, most applauded, and on the whole least successful exercises in moral philosophy. That is the search for a truly superior moral justification for selfishness." I wanted to end with this if we could. I see these preachers and these evangelists literally bending over backwards to justify the cruelty, immorality, and selfishness of Trump. I mean, even I heard somebody say this morning, and I have to agree, even Joe Rogan seems more generous and kind, asking for universal health care, et cetera, than these idiot preachers. How did the Christian Church of America become such an arm for stupidity, fascism, and just plain cruelty? I mean,
well, I am not drawing this parallel.
Go ahead.
Okay. But in Germany in the 1930s, it was fundamentally a Lutheran Christian nation. And how they were able to descend into the acts that they were able to perpetrate on humanity is, it's hard to believe it happened, but it did happen in a largely Christian nation, which ended up being Lutheran. And so today, I don't think, Nate, we should be entirely shocked or surprised that we're getting, I'm not saying the same kind of thing by any stretch of the imagination.
Al Gore made the comparison. I make the comparison all the time. You don't have to. I'll do it for you. We are walking towards the type of horror that you saw in Germany. Maybe we won't get there. Hopefully we won't, but we're walking towards it. I was in a church yesterday. I don't go to a Catholic church. I'm not a Catholic, but I was in a Catholic mass yesterday because a friend invited me. And I said, I'll go. And it was boring. Sorry. It was horrible. Yeah. Anyway, but the most horrible part of it was this woman got up at the end. One of the, what do they call those? The layman ministers or whatever, the ecclesiastical,
I don't know.
Whatever. Some lady got up to give the final comments of the day after the priest, who was clearly, what I would guess was, God, should I say this stuff? Yeah, I'm going to, clearly gay. I mean, he had what could only be described as I've only seen that type of mustache at gay pride parades. But anyway,
got it.
In very effeminate. I'm sorry to stereotype, but I would guess this man was gay, which makes me feel sorry for him that he has to live this lifestyle in this seclusion. But anyway, I had so many comments about this mass. But at the end of it, this lady gets up and she gives a speech where she praised that our government has the power and courage to do what it has to do on immigration to stop the flow of immigration. And I'm like in a Catholic church, and you sent me the article earlier this week. Great article. I shared it online. It got a lot of hits about the fact that these poor migrants in our community are hiding, literally working as a slave class in 2025, unable to go to the grocery store, unable because of Kathy Hochul and people like her. She tries to erase this history, but she was as anti-immigrant as anybody. Can't get driver's license, can't move, all these farms are begging for visa programs, by the way. They've been begging for 20 years for visa programs to have their workers documented. And the fact that these poor families are living in absolute fear while this lady, this rich or quasi-rich, upper middle class lady at a Catholic church prays that our government has the power to,
well, that's definitely
clear them out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a weird thing that she said. That's sort of a non-sanctioned kind of activity, I think. But
nobody said anything to her afterwards. No one went up to her and said, "Hey, it's a little bit. We're in church. We're supposed to be the Church of Jesus Christ."
Yeah,
like no one batted an eyelash at it, or it was
actually maybe they had fallen asleep when she was.
Wait, by the way, the look in that church, wow, whoa. I mean, like the fashion sense of the population of Cheektowaga. I mean,
it's not good.
I've never seen so many unkempt, bushy mustaches and retro aviator sunglasses outside of a hipster bar in Brooklyn. I mean, this was like unironically hip.
Well,
the clothes were so dated. Anyway, keep going.
No, it's just I don't know what to say. This is not the fashion center of the world.
I was like, we need some immigrants, man. Holy cow. Anyway, go ahead. What were you saying?
All right, no. So I gotta wrap this up.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I could talk to you all day.
Because I got some stuff to hit, but
yeah,
looks like we're finally going to be getting some decent weather, and hopefully this will be good for business. Hopefully good for everyone's mental health.
Yeah.
And,
let's go. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to play a song for you. It's called Robin Hood in Reverse.
Oh, good.
You said it. All right. I'll see you, Tony.
Okay. Bye.
Oh, boy. Good song.